Hi, I'm Bobby Rio, and I would like to welcome you to the webinar. This is Downshifting to Sex, 3 steps to arousing a woman and getting her horny for you. I'd like to thank you for joining me tonight. We're just going to wait a minute or two to make sure that everybody has a chance to get on. What we're going to be going over today is an extremely important subject that took me a long time to figure it out, and everything I'm going to be talking about today is going to be coming from experience. I'm glad to see so many of you recognize the value of learning this and that you're really serious about figuring this out and going out and getting to see results. Most men out there are oblivious to this sort of stuff. So by the time this webinar ends, you're going to know stuff that 95% of the guys out there just don't know. All right, we're just about at capacity, so let's get rolling. Before we do get started, I just wanted to bring up a few things. First off, close down any other browsers. Turn off instant messenger, turn off your Skype chat, any kind of chat, Facebook chat, anything. You don't want to be distracted. Turn off your cell phone. Avoid multitasking. We are going to be going over some really good stuff today, stuff that you're going to be able to go out and use the minute this webinar ends. So you want to be ready to take notes. You want to get everything in. You don't want to be distracted and let a key insight slip by. We're going to be going over a lot of material today. So at the end of the webinar, I'm going to tell you how to get a free MP3 version of this entire broadcast. So let's talk about who this webinar is designed for. This webinar is for you if you tend to have trouble turning a conversation sexual and taking it to that next level when you're talking to a girl. If you come across as too nice, too safe, or too friendly, and you're not getting a sexual response out of the girls you're interacting with, you're not arousing them, you're not getting them horny. If you don't know how to flirt in a way that keeps a girl interested, and instead you find that girls continually slip away before you can close the deal, then this webinar is for you. So what are we going to be learning on the webinar? Like I said, we're going to be going over a lot of good, serious stuff today. Some of the things we're going to be talking about is how to make your conversations turn into mental foreplay that turns her on, arouses her, and gets her thinking about having sex with you. I'm going to teach you a 3-step transition to the close that I call downshifting to sex. That's going to make it easy to get the kiss so that you don't wind up in the friend zone or worse, spend an hour talking to her only to never hear from her again. I'm going to show you how to learn to give off a sexual vibe so that women begin choosing you from the crowd, making themselves easy to talk to, and they give you noticeable encouragement to get sexual. And also, everything that I'm going to give you is going to be designed to show you how to take all this information and apply it in the real world to get massive results. This is going to be stuff that you can use literally 15 minutes after this webinar is over. You can go out tonight and immediately put this stuff into action. What I'm going to show you, and if you practice the next 2 nights, then by Friday night you should be out there closing the deal. My promise to you, I promise that I'm going to give you everything I possibly can in the time we have together today. Now, I know that there's always some of you who like to go further, who like to learn more. So I think we can all agree that normally women really don't make it easy for you. She'll rarely give you any blatant feedback that she wants you to make a move, that she wants you to kiss her, that she wants you to touch her, that she likes you, or even if she just likes you or thinks of you as a friendly guy that she just wants to kill some time talking to. And keeping her interested can be really hard. It's almost like the longer you're talking to her, the more you can just see that chemistry evaporating. And since she's not giving you feedback, it kind of feels impossible to suddenly start touching her or getting her alone or doing anything that lets her know that you're attracted to her and want to kiss her, which makes it really difficult to take that interaction to the next step. I actually have what I call a chemistry test. And a little later in this webinar, I'm going to give you this chemistry test. It's a simple move that you can use to test whether or not there's any chemistry between you and her. As simple as it is, I have found it to be shockingly accurate, and it'll give you a really good indication if it's time to move forward. Right now, you're losing girls that you should have had because you don't know this. And when you blow it with a girl, you very rarely get a second chance. The 3-step downshifting to sex system that I'm going to teach you during the course of this webinar, it's going to fix the problem of not knowing if or when you should make a move. Now, the reason I decided to do this webinar is because by far, the sort of questions that I get the most of every single day in my inbox have to do with things like transitioning from normal conversation to making it a flirtatious and sexual interaction. Guys always want to know, how do you turn a woman on right from the beginning of a conversation? How do you get her to see you as a potential sexual partner? How do you let a girl know that you're sexually interested in her? Once you sense she's attracted to you, what do you do then? What if you're inexperienced or even a virgin and she starts asking you about your sex life or the topic of ex-girlfriends or your experience comes up? I'm going to answer all these questions in the next 60 minutes. So why listen to me? I know that when somebody's teaching me something, I want to know that they're teaching out of experience, that they've actually gone out and used what they've preaching. Now, I've run TSB Magazine for the past 6 years. TSB, if you don't know what it is, it's a popular online men's sort of dating advice site. And running that site's given me a chance to study with and actually go out in the field and game with some of the top pickup artists in the world. And I've been able to learn a lot from them and get a lot of the tactics and sort of secrets that they use and incorporate it into my own game. I've slept with a lot of women, well over 100, and it would probably be more if I hadn't met my current girlfriend. Now, I'm not saying this to brag. I hate to be one of those guys that uses the amount of girls he slept with as a marketing tool or anything like that. I'm telling you this to show you that I've gained the experience. Now, not all these girls were perfect 10s. Some of them were pretty far from being perfect 10s. But each and every one of them helped me develop the skill of closing the deal and getting her back to my bedroom. I've taken what I've learned in that skill for the past 2 years, and I've been teaching it to my online mentorship program in the social training lab. And what I've gotten is I've gotten a lot of feedback on what's working and what's not working from them. See, I coach guys from all over the world, old guys, young guys, white guys, Indians, Asian guys, and the results now have become more and more consistent across the board, which has ultimately convinced me it's time to share this information in a webinar. It was not always easy for me. Like I said, I had to learn a lot of this stuff through practice, through going out in the field, sort of slumming it at times, and getting the experience under my belt. Now, it was about 5 years ago, though, that I hit my breaking point, and I realized that I needed to fix this. I was sick of being the guy that was always coming across as sort of friendly to women. The guy who, had a lot of friends at the time who consistently were bringing girls home. And it even got to the point where I hated bringing like girls that I knew around these guys because I knew that they could close the deal and I couldn't. And it got really, really frustrating. But I think I hit my breaking point with this girl, Candice. Candice was a girl that I worked with. And Candice had this girl next door cuteness. She was the kind of girl that everybody in the place just fell in love with immediately. But she and I connected quickly. We shared inside jokes. We spent most of our shift together talking. And we obviously liked each other. Heck, everybody in the place assumed that we were sleeping together. And I knew that we were having a work party in a couple weeks, so I figured that I'd make my move then. During the point up into that party, I sort of started building it up in my mind and getting kind of excited because I was like, now I'm finally going to get a girl that I really want. And if you've ever been there and you've ever had a girl that you've been friends with, that you thought something was going to happen and you built it up, then you know where I'm coming from. Because The night of the party comes around, and we spend the entire night talking. Me and Candice were talking. A little bit later, she comes back to my apartment later on. I start getting nervous because it's like finally here. It's finally going to happen. And now it's me and Candice, and we're completely alone in my apartment. And we're talking, we're laughing, we're remembering funny stories that happened throughout the night, talking about the people that we were hanging out with. Now, the entire time in my mind, I'm thinking, how can I just change the subject or get her stop talking long enough to kiss her? I'm sitting on the couch just wanting to touch her, letting my hand rub against hers. But all the while, I just couldn't steer the conversation away from talking about our coworkers and get it focused on the two of us. Soon 2 a.m. turned into 3 a.m., turned into 4 a.m., until finally she says, well, I should be leaving. Well, I can't tell you that was not a good night's sleep. When I woke up in the morning and realized what had happened, it was sort of like being stabbed. Well, the next time I hung out with Candice, it was more the same thing. We went out, we talked, we laughed, had really, really strong rapport. Yet every time we hung out, it ended with me talking myself into believing that next time I'd make my move. This went on for close to a few months until finally I just couldn't take it anymore. So I sent her that dreaded text that says, I think I'm attracted to you. The next day, I got the let's just be friends speech. If you've ever felt like you truly connected with someone, like you were just meant to be with them, and you knew that they felt the same way too, but you couldn't close the deal, you couldn't get the kiss, and then you wound up in the friend zone, then you probably understand how frustrated I was. That frustration ignited the spark that finally helped me figure this out. 3 years later, I actually wound up using the exact 3-step system that I'm going to be teaching throughout this webinar to sleep with Candice. But it was too late. Too much time had passed, and all it really did was serve to remind me and make me regret that I didn't go for it earlier. You see, back then, Candice didn't put me in the friend zone. I put myself in the friend zone. And I want you to really think back on some of the girls that you might have gotten friend zoned and really ask yourself, did she put you in the friend zone, or did you put yourself in the friend zone by the way you acted to her? Now, I told you that story about Candice because I learned a lot from that experience, and it really helped me recognize several of the big mistakes that I made. The first big mistake is this idea of trying to play it cool. I think this stems from guys, and I know that it was my case back in the day, from hearing advice like don't seem too interested or you've got to be cocky. Now, what I found is that shy guys tend to fall into this trap a lot because we basically use playing it cool as an excuse to avoid putting ourselves out there and making our move. Now, I know this because I used to be very shy, and girls very rarely knew that I liked them. And on one hand, I felt good about this because I hardly ever got rejected. On the other hand, though, I hardly ever got a girl back to my bedroom, and I hardly ever got to have sex with her. So the negative far outweighed the benefit of not risking rejection. But there's an even bigger mistake that guys make, and that mistake is that they have this idea that the longer you talk to a woman and the more that she likes you, the easier it's going to be to start flirting or getting sexual with her. But it's actually the exact opposite. You see, the longer you talk to a woman, or the longer you've known a woman where you haven't gotten sexual with her, the more you're killing your chances of anything ever happening. And in fact, there's actually an opposite correlation in which the more a woman likes you, the less likely she is to feel sexual attraction to you. Very counterintuitive, but what I found over the past 5-6 years is it's 100% true. You see, the biggest reason guys wind up in the friend zone is because they don't want to ruin the rapport that they have with the woman. They sense that the woman likes them. They sense that they have a little bit of a connection, and now they're afraid that if they do anything, if they try anything, if they make a move, that she's going to think that, oh God, he's just another jerk trying to get in my pants. But see, the reality is that you sort of are, and when you're honest about it up front, you get it out of the way, and the woman develops a little level of respect for you that she doesn't when you hide it. The fact is, a woman decides extremely quickly if you're a potential lover, you're a potential boyfriend, you're a potential friend, or if you're just some annoying guy in a bar that she doesn't want to be talking to and she just thinks you're a creep. What happens is most of us, most guys, present ourselves as a potential boyfriend. And we do things like trying too hard to find things we have in common with her. We try to focus on showing her that we have a good job, that we like to travel, that we have all these great boyfriend traits. If she's talking about a guy who's a player or a jerk, we usually take her side when she badmouths these guys and act like we're totally the opposite of them. We respect her too much to make a move. We listen to all her problems, and we even try to solve them for her. But there's a big, gigantic flaw in everything listed here, and that's because it does not create attraction in a woman. None of the things that I listed create 1 ounce of sexual attraction. See, even if it does make her think, wow, he would make a great boyfriend, you still lose. You lose because once a girl thinks that, she starts displaying all these good girlfriend qualities, and these qualities are just as boring and unsexual as your boyfriend qualities. Not only that, but you build up way too much comfort with her, and you drastically eliminate any urgency for sex, and most likely you wind up in the friend zone. So, can we all agree right now that it's better to go sexual right from the beginning, whether it's the first day you're meeting her, the beginning of an interaction, right from the beginning, you need to go sexual. So now that you know this, when are you going to start doing it? Now, if you're thinking that it's not your personality or it's outside of your comfort zone, it feels unnatural to you, don't worry. It felt completely unnatural and outside of my comfort zone to get sexual. I had that sort of side of me hidden in a sense. I was uncomfortable with displaying it around people. I'm going to make it really easy for you. The 3-step system that I'm going to be going over in the webinar here, it's going to make it really simple to do this. So let's talk about creating a sexualized persona. If you've ever seen the show Californication, then you know that there's a character, Hank Moody, who just seems to have girls throwing themselves at him. And even if you're thinking to yourself, well, that's just a TV show, I think that if you think closely across your life, you're going to find that in every social circle, in every group of friends, in any school environment, any work environment, there's always a guy that you know that lives that Hank Moody lifestyle, who just seems to have girls throwing themselves at them. And this stems from what we're going to be talking about right now, and that's this idea of creating a sexualized persona. The first major idea that you really want to keep in your mind, you want to really drill down deep into your subconscious mind, is that women want to have sex, but they don't want the responsibility for making it happen. So what women do is women seek out guys that they believe can make it happen. I'm going to repeat that. Women seek out guys that they believe can make it happen. This is why the same guys continue to get laid over and over again. This is why that guy that maybe you can't figure out how he gets chicks, he continues to have sex week after week. And he's probably going to continue stealing all the girls you want unless you figure this out too. See, women need to believe that you're capable of closing the deal, that you're capable of getting her back to your bedroom, and and that you're capable of doing it without letting things get awkward along the way, without putting any of the responsibility on her, and that you're comfortable with sex and you're not going to all of a sudden get weird about it. You're not going to all of a sudden get needy. Women pick up on all these things within a few minutes of talking to you. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to ask yourself, am I that guy? Am I that Hank Moody guy who comes across like he gets a ton of women and he's very comfortable with sex? Or are there changes that you need to make? The good news is that these changes aren't nearly as hard to make as you think. In fact, I've got 7 different ways to immediately come across as sexual to a girl. And in fact, what I do is I like to often stack them one on top of the other, and that really sends the message to her that, hey, I'm comfortable with sex and I get it. Here's one that you can go out and test tonight and use it. The next time you're introduced to a girl and you shake her hand, hold it for a few seconds longer than normal. Let her be the first one to pull away. See, with that one move, you're subtly sending a signal to a woman that you can make it happen. Most guys do the opposite. Most guys, when they shake a girl's hand, they get so uncomfortable with the sexual tension that they pull away right away. When you hold on just a tad bit longer than the two of you were comfortable with, you're sort of letting her know, hey, I'm not intimidated by sexual tension, and I'm the kind of guy who can make it happen. Try it tonight. Your first reaction might be to feel a little uncomfortable doing it, but just trust me, nothing bad is going to happen. And at the same time, everything good is going to happen because you're going to flip a little switch in the woman's mind, and she's going to look at you slightly different than she would have had you just given her a normal handshake. Over the past 7 years, after the incident with Candice, I've made it my mission to figure this out. That incident with Candice, it brought me to a boiling point where I just couldn't take it anymore. And I wound up spending thousands of dollars going out almost every night. And I went out with some of the best pickup artists in the world. I attended workshops. I went to seminars. I read hundreds of books on dating, sex, and psychology. And then what I did was I tested everything I was learning out on girls I was meeting off of online dating sites, girls that I was meeting through my social circle, friends of friends, girls that I met at bars and clubs, and my personal favorite, young professional networking events. I say this because a lot of guys tend to think that only kind of girls that are sexual are the girls that they meet at these nightclubs, the girls in the short skirts. But what you often find is that this stuff works even better on those girl next door types, the girls that you look at and you think they don't have the sexual side. It works even better on them. And now through years of going out and using this on all these different girls and through trial and error, I sort of kept what worked, I eliminated what didn't work, and then I condensed it down to a simple 3-step system. And that's what we're going to be going over. I know you guys want to get into it, so let's talk about the system. The system that I'm about to teach you is going to reveal a method for taking a normal platonic conversation and bringing it to a sexual level in a natural and discreet way. I'm going to tell you how to verbalize your desire for her without seeming creepy, try hard, or losing any value or giving away your power. I'm even going to give you one of my favorite moves for doing all this, and you can do it all without saying a word. I call it the toying gaze. You're also going to learn specific techniques for bringing out that wild side of a woman. I call this system downshifting to sex because what I've noticed is that there are very different gears that you can be in with a woman, and it's very similar to being in different gears when you're driving a car. If you've ever driven stick shift, then you probably know that you can't jump from first right into fourth gear. You gotta go through second and third gear. If you don't, you're gonna stall out because you didn't create enough of the necessary RPMs to sustain that kind of gear change. Well, what I found is that it's the same thing when you're dealing with a woman. And where most guys mess up is that we spend an entire night with her in the first gear, and by first gear I mean like the realm of nice guy. And then the end of the night comes, and suddenly we want to jump into the fast lane. But now what we realize is that it's impossible to change gears so quickly. It's just too much too late. What this system does is it makes each transition smooth so that you don't mess it all up. You don't mess up that progress you've made. This is the single biggest reason guys can't get out of the friend zone with a girl. What they do is they talk all friendly with a girl for months, even years, and then when they can't take it anymore, they confess their feelings to her, expecting that the girl just is going to automatically feel the same way. Now, as I learned with my experience with Candice, that it just does not work that way. However, a couple years later, I used this exact system that I'm going to be going over to actually get her into bed. If you're losing girls, it's probably because they don't feel a sexual connection to you. Maybe she doesn't feel sexual around you. Maybe the way you're talking to her makes her uncomfortable showing her sexual side. That's what happens. A lot of guys, when they get all safe and they get all formal around a girl, the woman gets really intimidated to let any of her sexual side out. So what she does is she starts looking for a guy who makes her feel comfortable, who lets her bring this side of her out, who gets her aroused, and who makes her horny. So the switch. This is how you let her know it's okay to let a little of her wild side out. Letting this wild side out of her, this is the first step to closing the deal and getting her back to your bedroom. You need to take the conversation to a rated R territory. You need to be having the sort of conversation that a parent wouldn't feel comfortable if their child was listening to it. There's just something more edgy, real, and exciting about rated R, so you need to establish this very quickly in a conversation. You see, what happens though is most of us we do the exact opposite, and we turn into the poster boy for rated PG once we get around a woman. It's like we're afraid of saying anything that might remotely offend her. Or worse, we don't want to say anything that might make her realize that we're actually a guy who likes sex. So instead, we talk about safe, neutral, PG topics. But I want to ask you, have you sat through a PG movie lately? They're boring and predictable, and they're not the least bit sexual. So the first mental reframe you need to make is stop worrying that you might say something that's going to offend a girl. So how do you take this conversation to a rated R level? I actually have a handful of techniques that do this, and different guys are going to feel different levels of comfort with each of these different techniques. But I want to give you one that you can try out tonight, something to get started with. So here's a really easy one. Make an R-rated observation about something going on around you. So let me give you an example. Say you're at a bar and there's an older couple sitting close by, a man and a woman, maybe in their 40s, 50s, doesn't matter, but just try to find an older couple. It helps if they actually look a little seedy. And then say something like, that couple over there just gives off a swingers vibe. Like, I could totally just picture them at one of those swanky 70s parties where all the couples drop their keys in a fishbowl, and then at the end of the night, the husbands and wives like swap based on what key they pull. Do you get that vibe from them, or is it just me? See, what you did was you jokingly used your situation, sitting next to an older couple, and you used it as a way to introduce a sexualized topic like swinging, but you did it in an innocent way. You made an observation about somebody else. You just officially shifted out of first gear and into second gear. See, now what I like to do, though, is then quickly throw a little fishing line to test the waters and say something like, now that I think about it, you kind of give off that swanky swinger vibe, too. And then I'll laugh and quickly change the subject, and I'll see if she attempts to bring it back up. If she does, then maybe I'll begin teasing her a bit more about being a swinger, or I'll get into how it's always the seemingly innocent ones that wind up being the kinkiest. Which is a great line to use on a girl because it really is usually the quiet ones that wind up being the kinkiest. And most of the quiet girls or the shy girls or the ones that look the most formal, they know that they're kind of kinky. And when you call them out on it, it makes them realize, like, this guy knows me. He gets me. These other guys don't. Great line to use on girls, because the fact is, like I said earlier, pretty much all girls have a kinky side. We're human beings. Sex predominantly rules the majority of our thinking, whether we're a girl or a guy. And when you recognize that in a girl, it really gets her thinking that you're different from other guys. Now, if she doesn't bite, if you say something like that and she doesn't bite, wait a few minutes, and then what I'll do usually is I'll downshift again using one of my other techniques. See, every girl I ever dated, like I said, even the shy, innocent ones, and especially the shy, innocent ones, when you let them open up a little bit, they love this rated R conversation. Not only do girls love talking about it, but when you take a conversation to a rated R level, you immediately distinguish and you differentiate yourself from the hundreds of other guys who spend the entire time talking to her in like that safe mode. And she finds it really refreshing to talk to you. And now she's going to want to keep talking to you. You're going to have her interest. Not only that, but you show her that you're comfortable with sex, which helps her view you as the kind of guy who can make it happen without things getting weird or awkward. And most importantly, you set up an atmosphere where a seduction can take place, where she starts thinking about sex, where she begins to get horny, and where you can get the kiss and you can get her back to your place. But before you can get the kiss, you must move on to step 2. So a little earlier, I told you a story about my coworker Candice, who, even though we had an amazing connection, I still couldn't transition to a kiss, and I wound up in the friend zone. You see, that first night I hung out with her, I skipped a very crucial step. I never expressed my sexual aim. I thought it would kill my chances if I let her know that I liked her on a sexual level, so I hid the fact that I wanted her, and I thought that this differentiated me from other guys, but it doesn't. I learned this, and I should have realized from an experience back in college, because back in college there was this girl, Jeanette, and Jeanette joined a sorority, and immediately she got bombarded with guys asking her out, hitting on her and stuff. So I wanted to differentiate myself by playing it cool. Well, about a year later, I wound up hooking up with Jeanette, finally, and we talked, and she told me how she thought I was really cute when she first met me, like a year ago, but after a few weeks, she thought I was like one of those guys who wasn't into sex because I showed no interest. And that's what happens, is that when you don't show a sexual interest in a girl, and it's probably what happened with Candice, midway through the night, as we continued to laugh and we continued to joke together, she probably already begun suspecting that I wasn't the kind of guy who could make it happen. Sure, I was a fun guy. Sure, she loved hanging out with me and talking to me, but probably just assumed that I'm not that sexual of a guy. And that's why expressing your sexual aim is so important, because hiding the fact that you're sexually attracted to a woman, it often will make her view you as being asexual, or worse, a closeted gay. Trust me, I've had girls talk about guys I knew who kind of hid their sexuality, and they asked me if the guy was gay. And girls think this when you don't express your sexuality to them. So why do you need to express your sexual aim? You're letting her know that you intend to make it happen, and that you're not going to be satisfied with a hug or a handshake, and that you're certainly not looking to be just friends with a girl. But also, you're preparing her that you're going to make your move, so that it doesn't come as a shock later on. I never prepared Candice that I was going to make a move. All night at the Christmas party, I talked to her, we laughed, but I didn't prepare her that I was going to make a move, which made it almost impossible later to go for the kiss. When women see you, though, as the kind of guy who can make it happen, when you sort of let them know you're going to make your move later, and they feel the attraction to you, they begin to do things that actually makes it easy for you. It's like, once it's out in the open, once she doesn't have to play Miss Prude, she makes it really easy for you to get the kiss, and you won't have any trouble. So when do you express the sexual aim? You must express sexual aim after you've created some attraction. You must also express it, though, before you build too much rapport. You got to do it after you create a little bit of attraction. If you walk up to a woman and tell her she's got an amazing ass, then you just sound like some construction worker who yells obscenities as she walks by. On the other hand, though, if you've been talking to a woman for a bit and you sense some attraction and she's talking to you, as she's talking to you, what you do is you sort of lean back casually as you're listening to her and check out her ass. Do it in a slightly exaggerated way and let her notice what you're doing. I call it the toying gaze because you're basically letting a woman catch you checking her out, but at the same time, you're intently listening to everything she's saying. So what women will wind up saying usually, if they're a little bit playful, is they'll say something like, "You're not even listening to what I'm saying," and you smile at her, and then you repeat back to her everything she just said. So what you did there is you were really playful with her, and women find it playful, but at the same time, the message is sent. I find you sexually attractive. That's expressing sexual intent. Now, earlier I promised to give you a chemistry test to judge a woman's attraction to you. Something very simple that I like to do is that as I'm talking to a girl, I wait for her to say something that I agree with. And maybe it's she likes the same baseball team as me. Maybe she likes the same band as me. And then I give her a gentle high five. When our hands touch, I let my hand linger there for a second, and I see how she reacts. If there's chemistry, she'll almost always let her hand linger there for a second. If she pulls her hand back right away, it means you probably haven't created enough attraction. Isn't this something that you can imagine using tonight? So tonight, or next time you're out talking to a girl, I want you to try it. It's simple and it's discreet, but at the same time, it tells you so much. So for now, just remember that if you want to take a conversation to a sexual level so that you can avoid the friend zone and that you can actually get physical with her, you gotta express this sexual aim. Step 3, escalate the flirtation. A few months after the incident with Candice, I was introduced to this girl, Valerie. We went on a date, and it began innocently enough, getting to know each other over drinks, but less than 3 hours later, we were in the basement of her parents' house. She was completely naked, spread out over a pool table, inviting me to join her. How did it happen so quickly? That brings us to step 3. Escalating the flirtation. And this really is the meat and potatoes of the system. My experience with Valerie was not out of the ordinary. When you begin using this stuff, you're going to find that seemingly innocent girls are going to start telling you what they like in bed. They're going to be making sexual jokes, asking you what they're doing later, trying to hint that they want to go home with you. Girls are going to go out of their way encouraging you to go for the clothes, and you're not going to be left wondering what they're thinking or whether or not you should go for it. She's going to make it impossible for you not to close a deal and get her back to your bedroom. Let's get back to this idea of changing gears that I talked about earlier. Earlier, I mentioned how if you change gears too quickly, you stall out because you didn't create the necessary RPMs. Well, if you've ever driven a stick shift, you know that there's even a more dangerous problem, and that's staying in the same gear too long. Just like you can ruin a car's transmission if you're driving in first gear the whole time. If the attraction revs up too high in one gear and you don't shift, you can actually blow up and kill the attraction. This is why you probably notice at times a girl that seemed really into you, but then her interest quickly faded. Maybe it was a girl at a bar that you were just really vibing with, but then she just sort of went back to her friends and forgot about you. Or worse, maybe it was a girl you went on a date with. You thought things were going really well, and then she starts becoming unavailable to hang out until finally she stops answering your calls at all. You need to be continually taking the interaction to the next level. You need to never let the sort of sexual tension plateau. And how do you do this? You do it with a new way of communicating with women that I call sexualized flirting. And the word sexualized is very important because what I learned over the years is that without adding a strong dose of sexuality to your flirting, you can actually get caught in the trap of becoming that flirty guys that girls don't take seriously. Like, they laugh at them and, they even have fun talking to them. But in the back of their mind, you're just a safe, nice guy that they could never imagine sleeping with. So there's some big differences between flirting and sexualized flirting. And with this specific type of flirting, you begin to introduce sexual themes into a conversation. You use stories as a way to innocently transition to talking about sex. And you use stories to get her thinking about sex with you. You use playful games to get her opening up her desires and her fantasies. And you get her feeling comfortable experiencing these emotions around you. You tease her in a specific sort of way that has sexual undercurrents. And even though she knows you're only teasing her, there's an element of danger and an element of excitement to the conversation that unconsciously begins to turn her on and get her aroused. You're very aware of sexual tension, and you're able to control it and manipulate it, leading to much, much, much quicker intimacy. See, even if your goal isn't to try to sleep with a woman the first night, this type of flirting is going to ensure that you get the kiss and that you position yourself in her mind as a guy that she plans on sleeping with and not a guy that she wants to be friends with. Here's an example of a conversation shifting gears. So say the two of you have been lightly flirting and everything is being said playfully. You: I can't believe you like Lady Gaga. She's so weird. Her: shut up. You're probably a closet Lady Gaga fan. I can imagine you sitting at home alone with your iPod listening to Lady Gaga singing out loud. You better watch out or you're going to get spanked, little girl. Oh, did I embarrass you? We're totally having a pillow fight later, and I'm not going to go light on you just because you're a girl. I'll totally beat you in a pillow fight. I'm like the world champion of pillow fighting, and I got to warn you, I'm also known to be merciless at tickle wars. So if you start to get too naughty, you are going to feel my wrath. Okay, so did you notice how I shifted gears into a more sexual frame? The conversation started with Lady Gaga, but by the end of it, we're talking about rolling around on her bed, tickling each other, and acting naughty. Something friends don't do. So that would be like shifting from second to third gear. Now let me give you an example of how you can shift from third into fourth gear. Remember, you need to keep shifting gears because if the attraction revs up too high in one gear and you don't shift, you'll actually blow it up. Her: don't even think about it. I hate being tickled. I pinky swear that unless you're acting really naughty, I promise not to tickle you. As soon as she lets go of her hand, tickle her. I hate you. That was so mean. You know what? I didn't notice this before, but you've got a really sexy smile. Okay, you see how once again you shifted gears. You went from joking around about tickling to actually getting a little physical, at first getting her hand in yours for the pinky swear, and then you tickled her. But more importantly, at the end you said, you've got a really sexy smile. Why is it so important that you said that? Because that last line, it leaves no room for misinterpretations. It just lets her know that the two of you, you've both been flirting, and you find her sexually attractive, and you prevented any possible friend zone objections that might come up later on. And here's a secret for you. Women want you to find them sexually attractive. I've dated and slept with quite a few girls, and you know what compliment turned them on more than anything? Which one they used to repeat back to me, telling me how much it turned them on. Which comment in bed they would beg me to say again. It wasn't "you're so beautiful." It wasn't "I love your eyes." It was "you're so fucking sexy." See, a beautiful girl, she knows she's beautiful. She knows she has nice eyes. She knows she has a nice body. But she doesn't know if she's sexy. And when you can make a girl feel sexy, you really unleash her wild side. Okay, so I wanted to get to some questions because I see a bunch of questions coming in. I'm going to answer a few of them. If you do have a question and I don't answer it, just submit it, and I promise you that I'll try to answer any of your questions via email. So a question I got a lot of is asking for some examples of shifting gears from rated R to locker room talk. Rated R is about the subject matter and the way you flirt with the girl. And it can sometimes be something as simple as changing your vocabulary or just the words that you're using. For instance, she's not being bad, she's being naughty. You're not going to hit her, you're going to spank her. If she's teasing you, you say something like, don't make me take the belt off. It's not a basement, it's a dungeon. Even certain words, and especially the way you describe things, particularly when you're teasing her or you're making observations about her, you can use certain words that have sexual sort of undertones, like she has lusty eyes, she looks hot and bothered. Some other words are like urges, thongs, G-strings, stilettos, even panties, fetish, vibrator. Not dildo, though. Dildo's an X-rated word. Swingers, gag reflex, KY, wet, sloppy seconds, cougar, whips and chains, kinky, spooning, cybersex. These are all R-rated words. It's these sort of words with sexual connotations you want to use at this stage. You're not using any of the X-rated words yet. And the fun thing to do is, since most of these words are double entendres, if she takes a sexual meaning, you can actually accuse her of having the dirty mind. But it's this sort of conversation you want to establish in first gear. Now, this doesn't mean you dwell on these things the entire time like some kind of horny 13-year-old, but you establish that these are the rules of the conversation and that it's okay to go there, so that later when you begin to escalate the flirtation, it doesn't come as a surprise to her. So the other question that I've been getting throughout this webinar is how to go from laughing and joking to making your move. And the problem is that guys get too caught up with talking, and talking is not seductive. So here's a simple process you can use. Slow down. Once you sense you have a good vibe, you need to slow everything down. Speak slower, make slower movements. Just take a breath and slow the back and forth banter down a bit. And then allow tension to build. What you're doing is you're allowing some sexual tension to build up. Whenever a man and a woman are close by each other and there's sort of a silence, some tension develops. Most of us, we're trying to diffuse the tension with more jokes, more flirting, and more stories. You need to learn to enjoy that tension and use it to your benefit. And the next thing you want to do is create some sort of physical connection. Once again, the best way to do this is with your hands. Take her by the hand and lead her somewhere. Get closer to her. Allow the sexual tension to build up by getting closer to her, whether it's by sitting closer to her, standing closer to her, or just leaning into her as you talk. And then drop the jokes, drop the flirting, and become a little vague. Look into her eyes and just exude your sexual power. Let her know that you're the sexual creature, you're the man, and you're gonna make it happen. And at that point, you kiss her. Very easy if you've done a good job with your sexualized flirting leading up to this moment. So, can we all agree that it's better to go sexual right from the beginning of a conversation? Can we agree that you must express your sexual aim? I hope you're nodding your head yes, because if you're not, you are playing a dangerous game with the friend zone. I think you're also going to agree that you got to get the first kiss quickly. My first night out with Candice, I didn't get the kiss, and then it took me almost 4 years later to finally shake that friend vibe and get it. If you go more than 2 dates without getting a kiss from a girl, she's probably laughing about how much of a pussy you are to her friends, and she's already moving on to a guy who can make it happen. The first step to getting the kiss is taking the conversation to a rated R level. If you paid attention, I think you see that by using the right words, the right topics, stories, it's actually pretty easy to take a conversation sexual. And if you're not already using this stuff, you're missing out big time, and probably you're losing girls' interest to guys who are. You should also be convinced that you need to be constantly shifting gears with women and using sexualized flirting to keep the tension alive. Like I said earlier, if there was a girl that you ever went on a date with, thought things were going well, and then she starts becoming unavailable to hang out or stops answering your calls, you probably didn't do a good job of keeping the tension alive. Because the fact is, if you get a woman thinking about having sex with you and you get her imagining it and letting the tension linger, it's going to happen. Valerie, she spread herself out naked on her parents' pool table and they were sleeping like 20 feet away. Now, people always ask me for more, to go deeper. So, as I mentioned earlier, I put a special program together, and it's a special package exclusively for guys on this webinar. In 60 minutes, I just can't tell you it all. I can't give you all the lines and techniques you can use to immediately have her looking at you as that potential lover, which makes the rest of the conversation so much easier because you can just skip that boring small talk and jump right into the vibe where she develops sexual feelings for you. It helps you avoid any chance of being put in the friend zone and makes it easy to get the kiss, close the deal, and get her back to your bedroom. So I put together a complete program that walks you through the entire system in detail, giving you specific lines, specific techniques, and specific tools that you can use during each transition towards the kiss. Everything you need to get her aroused and get her horniness focused on you and get her back to your bedroom. So let's talk about what this program contains. Module 1 is creating a sexualized persona. Here you're going to learn how to give off a sexual vibe right from the start, making her see you as a potential lover and not as a friend. Module 2 is called Taking It to Rated R. Here you're going to learn conversation tactics to bring the conversation into R territory, which avoids fluff or boring attraction killers. Module 3 is all about expressing your sexual aim. Here you're going to learn how to let a woman know you're interested in her sexually and how to do it without giving away your power or coming across as creepy. Module 4 is Escalating the Flirtation. Here you're going to learn how to bring out the flirtation and become dangerously sexual with her and have her loving every minute of it. You're going to learn how to test her willingness to get sexual, challenges you can use to trick her into getting sexual, how to use a false barrier to say things you normally couldn't, rejection-proof ways to let her know that you want to sleep with her, how to get her to assume you're good in bed, experience with girls, and a sexual guy, even if you're not, innocent ways to get her alone or away from her friends so you can begin escalating. I'm going to give you tons and dozens of examples of sexualized comments, teases, and jokes that you can go out and use tonight. Module 5 I call Tricks of the Trade. Here you're going to learn some of the best role plays, games, character roles, and cold readings for adding that sexual tension to an interaction. Module 6 is all about nonverbal sexuality. Here you're going to learn all the physical touches, gestures, glances that you can use to send those sexual signals to a girl. Module 7 is about overcoming obstacles. Here you learn the common challenges and obstacles and how to overcome them. You're also going to learn the 12 major mistakes you might be making if you've had less than success going sexual. I'm going to tell you how to avoid them. If you struggle to create sexual connections with a woman, then this program is for you. To learn all this and begin using it immediately, access to this program is $67 for the videos. Now, I know that some people prefer audio, so I'm also going to include MP3 versions of all the videos, so you can easily put them on your iPod and listen to them wherever you go. You can even put the tips and tricks MP3 on your phone. That way, if you're stuck and you can't remember, you have easy access to just grab the information off your phone, actually go back to talking to the girl, and take it from a platonic to a sexual level. If you're going on dates, you're going out to bars and clubs, you're going on online dating sites, then you're going to find that 67 saves you a lot of money in the long run. Why? Because you can skip over the courting phase that usually ends with a hug or a handshake and jump right into the sexual realm. What you'll find is that when a girl's ready to have sex with you, she'd actually rather just come back to your place, drink a couple glasses of wine, relax with some TV, and follow you into your bedroom. There's no need for expensive dates. In fact, my friend Jake, who I learned a lot of this from, he's currently unemployed. He makes a couple hundred off of unemployment, and he actually gets girls taking him on vacations. He just flew down to the Dominican with his dentist girlfriend who paid for the entire trip. Now, I literally spent years figuring this out, and I was lucky enough to have my friend Jake to model. I was also patient enough to dig through a lot of expensive programs, to dig out the golden nuggets, and actually to put it into use and test it out. This program is going to reduce your learning curve from 4 or 5 years like it took me to a few hours. Now, I'm not telling you that this is a magic bullet miracle cure where you won't have to do anything and girls are going to be just flinging themselves at you. This is not love potion number 9. It's not some super pheromone. You're actually going to have to go out and use the material to get results. And the first couple times you go out, you may feel a natural resistance to interacting with women this way because it's going to be different than what you've done before. But as countless of my students have already found out, the results will speak for themselves. But most importantly, the program is going to save you a lot of missed opportunities. If you've ever had the displeasure of blowing it with a girl like I blew it with Candice, then you realize how important it is to know this stuff, and how if you blow it, you rarely get a second chance. Now, like all my programs, I offer an unconditional 60-day guarantee. So you can purchase now, you can use the material for 2 whole months, 8 weeks of going out and using it. And if you find that you're not closing the deal more often, you're not getting more women back to your bedroom, then simply refund the program. Unlike some companies that make you jump through hoops or to get a refund, with me it's one click and you never even have to explain why. But don't worry, that's not going to be the case. The material in this program has been tested and proven over and over again to work, and not just for me, but for my personal coaching clients, the guys in my social training lab that I've shared this with. Get the program now and get it at the special price of $67. Go to makesmalltalksexy.com/downshift. Now, earlier I mentioned that this offer is exclusive and limited to guys on the webinar. And not only is the price exclusive, but I'm also going to be offering 2 additional bonus packages for the first 100 guys to purchase. I'm including 2 trainings, and these are 2 trainings that zero in on 2 areas I found to really be holding guys back from being able to just become unstoppable with women. And that's knowing how to judge a woman's interest level and knowing how to properly kiss close. So the first program is called Is She Into You? And you're going to learn all about how to judge whether or not a girl's into you or whether or not you're wasting your time talking to her. The second program is called Secrets of the Kiss Close. And in this program, you're going to learn exactly how to go for the kiss, how to avoid the mistakes going for it, and you're also going to get a video presentation of an actual kiss close so you can watch everything from how to lean in, what to do with your hands, the right way to kiss, how to build even more sexual tension with the kiss. These 2 bonuses are only available to the guys on this webinar and to the first 100 who purchase. So this is a complete video program. It's over 4 hours long, all about sexualized flirting. You're going to learn tons of examples of exactly what to do and say in specific situations so that you'll have a guidebook you can use to calmly and coolly handle any situation that comes up and you don't risk losing the girl. You're going to get field-tested flirting scripts, tactics, and techniques that are going to enable you to unleash that wild side she has. But most importantly, it's going to show you how to close that giant gap between a conversation and a seduction. You can get it all now at makesmalltalksexy.com/downshift. In fact, what you're going to find a few months after learning this is you're going to notice that girls that used to view you in a platonic way, they're going to start looking at you more, making excuses to talk to you, getting jealous when they see you with other girls. And you're probably going to notice them doing things like showing you their private tattoos, feeling your muscles, putting their hands under your shirt, bending over so that you can catch glimpses of their cleavage. And the reason they're doing this is because without them even knowing it, your new way of communicating is stirring sexual feelings in them. And what you're going to discover is that when women start having these feelings, it's like a switch goes off and she just can't help herself. So just go to makesmalltalksexy.com/downshift. So whether or not you say yes to this offer today, I'll still sleep well tonight. The fact is my life is still going to be good. I'll fall asleep next to my beautiful girlfriend. We'll wake up to some morning sex. And even if things don't work out with her in the long run, I know that where I'm going to get sex from is no longer a concern for me. I had back in the day, I would go through 6-7 month droughts, 7 months without having any sort of physical connection with a girl, any sort of physical contact with a girl. And I never, ever have to worry about that again. And I want you to have that same peace of mind. So I'm going to sleep well tonight, but are you? Will you be able to sleep knowing that you could have done something to change your future, to change what you're currently getting into something more, to take a step closer to being the guy that can make it happen? Are you going to sleep tonight if you let this opportunity pass by? Almost forgot. To get your free MP3 recording of this webinar, send me an email at bobby@tsbmagazine.com and tell me what the biggest insight you had was, what the most impactful thing you learned, and what you plan on going out and trying tonight. Tell me what your biggest aha or breakthrough was, and email to bobby@tsbmagazine.com. I see a question coming in. Mark says, will we really not be able to buy it if we don't buy today? I'm not going to lie to you guys and tell you that you'll never be able to buy this program again. I am planning on making it available, but a couple things you want to keep in mind. First off, the price is going to go up. This is a special price just for guys on this webinar. Second, you won't get the 2 bonuses I mentioned. Third, and most importantly, is the longer you wait to buy this, the longer you wait to consume this information and go out and start using it, the more opportunities that you might miss out on. So that just about wraps it up. If you asked a question and I didn't answer it, I'm sorry, I didn't want this thing to go on forever. But I promise that I'm going to try to get back to everybody via email in the next 48 hours or so. So grab your copy of the program now and go out tonight and test it. Test it out, put it into use, and get a girl back home with you.